Welcome to Transcending the Rabbit Hole. I'm Brandy Anderson. I'm a spiritual director and Jungian coach on an ever-winding contemplative path of becoming. I'm the author of Through the Veil, A Glimpse into the Afterlife, and co-host of Spectral Symposium podcast. I'm joined today by my very good friends and co-hosts, Annelise and Parker Bess. Annelise is a singer, songwriter, sound healer, and spiritual influencer dedicated to raising human consciousness as she shares her awakening journey on TikTok. Parker is a true knowledge seeker and truth bringer in the realm of esoteric wisdom. Parker has a solid understanding of metaphysical concepts with expertise in the shadowy corridors of secret societies, occult knowledge, and ancient aliens and ufology. We invite you to pry open your third eye and journey with us through the cosmic rabbit hole as we alchemize esoteric insights in a quest for ultimate truth.
Falling down the rabbit hole again.
Welcome back to another episode of Transcending the Rabbit Hole. Today we're stepping into the charged and symbolic terrain of the end times. Not to decode prophecy, but to question the narrative. What if the end isn't something to fear, but something sacred? What if endings are just disguised beginnings? In this episode, we're looking beyond rapture stories and doomsday scripts to explore what it really means to witness the collapse of an old world and the birth of something more true. Annelise and Parker, it's a privilege to transcend this rabbit hole with you guys.
Hey, Brandy. Thank you. So good to be here.
Yeah, so good, Brandy. I'm excited about this conversation.
Yeah, there's a lot of fear swirling around about end times. I know all of us have been coming from that Christian perspective. I'm sure we've all had our worldview shaped by that end times rapture theology. I remember not liking church as a kid at all. Like, I always found it just very fear-based, like the messages were just super off-putting. And I wasn't, steeped in that evangelical culture like a lot of children are. But what exposure I did have, it just never really resonated. As a teen, I can remember the local Baptist having those hell houses around Halloween. And I went to a couple of those, and I just found it so repulsive. Like, it didn't make me want to drink the Kool-Aid. It made me want to stay far, far away from those people. And I remember sitting through a turn or burn message at around the age of 14 and thinking to myself, I really don't want to go to hell. That sounds pretty awful, but I think I'll just have to if it means joining this cult. Like, it was just so off-putting. I was like, I just can't. I cannot. And I was at a retreat, like a youth thing. And I remember I called my mom every day begging her to come and get me. From that retreat, it was like the worst thing I'd ever endured. Mm-hmm. And they talked like it was going to be a beach trip, like, or a fun getaway or whatever. Yeah. So, and I was a stupid kid, and I fell for it. They were just trying to make converts. And I don't know, it was one of the worst weeks of my life. But in all seriousness, though, I do know that there are so many people who have had to have therapy because they were immersed in that rapture theology. Like waiting to be raptured away, prepping for end times. It does something to your psyche. It's fear-based and it warps the brain. So, I would love to hear how you guys kind of processed that or how it maybe shaped your worldview.
Yeah, I'm going to be laughing. I'm sorry. That was so true. So it's just honestly funny. Well, I was one of those children you just mentioned. I didn't know there was another worldview, of course, until, 10 years ago, 5 years ago. Gosh, kind of kidding. Anyway, so I grew up during the Left Behind book series. Yes. I was, maybe 5 or 6 when those were super big, like in the early parts of it. And my brothers were reading it. I have 2 older brothers. So, of course, even though I was 5 or 6, I knew the story. I knew what to expect for these end times. And I would go to bed every night during this time of my life terrified that I'd wake up and my parents wouldn't be there or my siblings wouldn't be there. And it'd just be me in the house, left to fend for myself after Jesus left me there.
Oh, gosh.
Which poor Annelise.
I know. And truly that fear went on through childhood. Like
if he left you, none of us had a chance.
Oh my goodness.
I know, that's what I was saying. Poor Annelise got left behind. My goodness.
And I was always so sure that like, I don't have the right theology to go to heaven. I know I don't. Let me pray that prayer again. Or maybe I didn't mean it enough that first time when I was 8. Let me do that again. I always had this fear that it was never going to be enough and I never would have the ticket to heaven. Now, I will say I grew up in a very loving religious community. Like, it was not turn or burn vibes at all. But the message was still there. You know, it was still, well, yeah, you're going to go to hell if you don't choose the good path that God has given you, but that's your choice. That's your choice, you know? So it was shrouded in a loving tone, but just completely fear-based. And, I remember being a little girl and my mom telling me, and I don't know where she got this. It might have been from that book series. I truly don't know. But I'm going to trauma dump on y'all right now. I might have been 6. And she said, listen, it's okay. Like, if I've read that if you do go to hell, you can change your mind at a certain point after X number of years, and they'll just cut your head off and then you get to go to heaven. Can you believe that?
Oh my gosh.
And I don't know where she picked that up, but how awful. And so that's what I grew up thinking.
Lord.
Hey, it's okay. It's okay. At least if I don't make it, there's that loophole.
Gosh.
Like,
Cut your
that
head
is
off in hell.
therapy level trauma. And I'm just now realizing I went through it as I'm telling you guys. Because I didn't know it wasn't love. I didn't know it wasn't the way it was. I thought, this is life, and wow, tough life, you know? And it really wasn't until a couple years ago, as we're raising our own children, that I dumped that theology, that I dumped that false narrative in my head. When my own son said, hey, they told me at Vacation Bible School that my friends who don't go to church and don't follow, you know, Jesus's way, they're going to hell. But I don't want so-and-so next door, best friend, going to hell. And that just broke it for me, where I had to really look at it differently. Like, because he had tears in his eyes. He's like, I just hate to hear that my best friend's going to go to hell. And that's when I said, this can't be right anymore. I'm going to do a little digging. And I put that into my homework of my deconstruction. And thank God I did. It freed me from so much fear to find out that it was all a mistranslation. It was all just a system-made fear tactic. So it's good to be on the other side, and I'm glad to be talking about this to hopefully get other people to that other side.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I mean, Brandy, I am with you on the whole, it never really fit, you know. And for my parents, it didn't fit either. You know, I didn't grow up in the church setting because it didn't fit with them. And when I got to personally, I don't know what why they didn't fit with them, but for myself, when I did get involved with church, you know, it just didn't really resonate, like you were saying, like the whole message of just everything you said already. And, you know, I really do think that, like with what Annelise was saying about how it's not like fire and brimstone in these like new age churches, but it is cloaked with like softness and goodness. And, you know, like if you're not a part of this, you're missing out and you will go to hell. Like it just never really set with me either. And the rapture thing, I'm just going to be honest with everybody here. Like I never thought about that because I just never was a part of it, to be honest. But
Yeah.
He never thought it was the way. Yeah.
Yeah.
But the more I've studied it, the more I had been intrigued. And that's why I'm really intrigued by this conversation we're going to have, because I just want to hear it. I want to hear what y'all think about it.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that, Annelise, though, because your experience is so common to a lot of people who are raised in the church like that. And that trauma, it really runs deep. And I've heard people share their experience of waking up and maybe their family stepped out for a bit or something. And, you know, they wake up and their family's not at home and they look around and they can't find anyone. And they immediately think, oh, gosh, you know, they were raptured and I've been, you know, left behind. So, and it's, you know, we laugh about it. It sounds, you know, humorous, but it's traumatizing to people.
It is.
And then
Yeah.
at church camps, there's also the situation where people actually would play those pranks on people, you know, like where everybody was sleeping, leave one kid or whatever, so that when they'd wake up, they would think that but it's not funny because it does something to the psyche, truly. And,
Really does.
Our,
Like the descriptors, like, the blood will be up to the horse's knees. You know, you'll be left behind and left to fight this battle. I'm 6, 7 years old thinking, gosh, I better get ready. They say this day's coming, blood up to the horses, like awful things, you know, for a child to, I guess, prepare for. Yeah. Parker, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh, that's all right. I was going to say, Brandy, our oldest son, he doesn't know much, hardly anything, maybe nothing of the rapture. But you should see You should see the way he flips out when me and Annelise are outside at nighttime just hanging out, like on the back porch or something. He's gotten in this mode where this anxious mode where he goes running through the house, running outside, frantic, looking for us, like, oh my God, you scare me so bad, you scare me, you scare me. And I'm just thinking, like, if this like rapture thing was like, I mean, I can just picture Annelise at that age, because it's the same age, you know, being terrified, because I'm seeing it in my own son. His is like,
and he hadn't even heard about the
but-
rapture.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I started having this reoccurring nightmare when I was about my son's age, 6 or 7, where I'm under a car. And Brandy, you do dream work, so you'll like this. I've had this nightmare, annually since I was about 7. So I'm under a car. The rapture is taking place right in front of me. I'm about 6 or 7 under the car, and everybody's gone. It's just me, and I'm just witnessing just the world burn, and Satan walking by with his 2 feet, because in my programming, Satan's red and 2 feet, and. No, but truly, under this car, terrified for my life, the deepest sense of fear I have ever felt is in this dream, and it comes over and over. And watching this all happen, but I'm safe. I'm like against a tree under a car. But that, I guess, is kind of like how my subconscious dealt with how I was taught. And that's messed up.
It is.
To say the least.
It is.
And I haven't really ever sat with that, like, wow, I think I might have been, a part of that really messed up training that we've done to children, that we've done to society. And society needs to remember the truth. And I'm really, really glad for this talk.
Yeah. That is a rich dream, and we could really work that dream on a whole other episode where we could go down that rabbit hole. But I believe that, that our dreams come in the service of health and wholeness. And so even though some are terrifying, very frightening dreams, I believe that those dreams are just trying to communicate something that we're not consciously aware of, but that we need to be aware of for our betterment. So, and I also think that our psyche uses symbols that mean something to us. And so for you, it carries a lot of emotionally charged meaning. So I don't think that your dream is about the end times at all. I think there's a deeper meaning, but I think that your psyche has used that imagery to make a metaphorical point. And so it's interesting that is what is like burned into your psyche.
Yeah, I know.
From an early age is like your horror movie, your worst case scenario,
It
right?
is. But this past weekend, for those listening, I attended a workshop that Brandy was speaking at. She and a man named Johnny Barnett. It was amazing, and I saw her set not only me free from like still held on to trauma that I hadn't released, but set this whole room of people free from the biggest misunderstanding. One of the biggest misunderstandings, I think, of our society. So I'm really excited for you to share about this today.
Well, thank you. That means a lot.
Yeah, I want to say this real quick, Brandy.
Yeah.
I wasn't able to attend, but Annelise came back and was raving all about it.
Aw.
So I'm gonna watch it.
Aw.
There is a YouTube video, right? Is that right, Brandy? Is there a video?
I think there's going to be. I think we
Okay.
took a video, and I believe that it's going to become available.
Maybe behind
but
a
I gotta get with
paywall or
Johnny
something like
about
that
it.
eventually. Something
Maybe.
like that.
On our website coming up, I hope we'll be
Yeah.
putting on content like that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
And I
absolutely.
do intend to create some slideshows around some of these talks and make them available for sure. So
Yeah.
even if that video doesn't materialize
Good.
as available, that talk will be
Good.
eventually.
Well, we're
So-
proud of you. Good job, Brandy.
Thank you.
We
Thank you.
are. Y'all just
Thank you.
wait. Y'all just wait.
Oh, I think there are a lot of other people who are out there sharing the same content, and they kind of have made it their life's work around end times theology. And there, lots of videos, YouTube stuff that you can find out there, and they may even say it better than I do. But yeah, I believe that, in the context that in the workshop that I was in, those people, they hadn't heard all that. So, so I think it was helpful for them to hear. So yeah, I thought maybe a good place to begin is just with the beast, the mark of the beast and the beast, right? That's kind of central to all of that end times rapture theology. And Revelation 17:10 tells us who this beast is, though. So there's all this swirling around in the ether about it's going to be a political figure. Someone's going to rise up. They're going to seem benevolent and kind, and they're going to perform signs and miracles. And then, they're the devil incarnate, and they trick the whole world into, worshiping them. They set themselves up in the temple. And people, have speculated it's going to be some political leader or religious leader. So every pope, every president, all these leaders, people have been, that's the Antichrist, that's him, that's the beast, so all of this, misconception just kind of swirling around. And because it's so ambiguous, everyone's guessing at who it could be. There's a lot of fear in that too, right? Because you could miss it. You could be wrong. It's like, well, is it this person or is it that person? But in Revelation, in the letter where this content is coming from, John, the Revelator, the person who penned this letter, which, by the way, this letter was written to particular people at a particular time. He lists in the beginning of the letter who it's to, and it's those churches in Asia Minor. And so if you read Revelation, you're reading someone else's mail. I mean, it's not to us 2,000 years later. But he says clearly who the beast is. And Revelation 17:10, he says there are 7 kings, 5 have fallen, 1 is, and the other has not yet come. And when he comes, he must continue for a short time. So it's a succession of that Roman, the Roman emperors of the time. The 5 who are fallen are Julius Caesar, Augustus, Tiberius, Gaius, and Claudius. And the one who is, the one currently ruling, is Nero. And the one yet to come, but for a little while, was Galba. And so the beast is the Roman Emperor Nero. He's using cryptic language because of the implications. If the letter had been intercepted, then, whoever had it in their possession would have been killed. So he's just kind of writing it cryptically, but not so cryptically that the people who received it wouldn't know who he was talking about. And, Revelation 13 says, I saw a beast rising up out of the sea, having 7 heads, and I saw one of his heads as if it had been mortally wounded, and his deadly wound was healed. So in church, they think that some dude is going to rise up as a one world ruler and literally die and resurrect. Like they're waiting for someone to be mortally wounded and then just stand up, and everyone's going to see this happen. But it's about Nero. He committed suicide in 68 AD, and it threatened to be the death of the Roman Empire. And then there were 3 short-lived emperors who followed him, so that empire received a mortal wound when Nero died. It was very shaky indeed. And then finally, in 69 AD, Vespasian rose up, and he brought resurrection to the empire, and he ruled until 80 AD. So Nero was beastly. He killed his mom because she was opposing him in his affair. He was married and he was having an affair, and his mom opposed him, so he killed her. Then he just offed his wife too so that he could marry his illicit lover Sabina. And then after he married her, he kicked her in the stomach so hard when she was pregnant with his child that both of them died, the baby and Sabina. He orchestrated the burning of Rome, and then he tortured Christians by burning them alive in his courtyard, that's where the term Roman candles comes from. So he was a beast in every way. So it's not some cryptic, who's going to be this beast rising up 2,000 years after this letter was written. No, I mean, John was clear. It was Nero. And the people who received that letter would have immediately known that it was Nero.
Wow.
That's great.
When you lay it out like that, you can't. And they would have known that too, because they were living in that time where under this ruler, Nero, being so awful, burning Christians alive. Of course, that's the Antichrist, or the beast, the beast.
Yeah.
Wow. The Roman candle thing.
Yeah.
Too.
And
That's wild.
wasn't John tortured by Rome, for a long time, and then exiled to an island, and then he's like writing these letters? I mean,
he's on the island of Patmos, I think is what it is. Yeah.
Smoking,
so
goodness knows what, eating goodness knows what mushrooms too,
Yeah,
truly.
I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah,
for
it
sure.
would make sense. Like he, like we've all heard of like the Swiss cheese letters, or if you haven't, they're the World War II letters that the soldiers would write back, and they would cut out certain phrases of letters, so
Right.
like a piece of Swiss cheese. It's like the same type of thing,
Yeah. At the time he wrote that, people were being beheaded, tortured, and killed, executed for their faith. So, everything he wrote, he had to kind of, hide the true message. He couldn't just explicitly say
Say it out. Yeah, right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but the people it was pinned to, they would have known. And then, all of that. So Nero is the beast. So then that brings us to the mark of the beast, right? Because, oh my gosh, I've heard it's everything from microchips to vaccines. I don't know about
Yeah.
you guys,
Yeah.
but
Microchips for sure.
yeah, and Revelation 13 says that the mark of the beast is the number of a man, and his number is 666. Like I just said, there's so much nonsense preached around this verse. I mean, everything out there under the sun has been thought to be it's going to be the microchips. And it's also interesting to me that Christians think they could be tricked into it, like inadvertently receive this chip or this mark. Like they're afraid they're going to accidentally get the mark and be doomed to damnation. It's like they imagine God would let them be tricked or make the mark so ambiguous that there's no way to know for sure, like what it is. And it's terrible the damage that does to people because they live in constant fear that they're going to accidentally get the mark and go to hell in a handbasket.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, so that sounds so familiar. So familiar. I was told, my mom told me when I was growing up that, it would get to a point where like we could only buy, like we modern day Americans, we could only buy things from, this is what I'm being told as a child. You'll only be able to buy things from the grocery store if your forehead has carved into it 666.
Oh, mercy.
Good gracious alive. All right. So yeah, that's just. And when I was growing up, I was told the Antichrist was Oprah.
Oh my gosh! No way.
Yeah, that was who was predicted to be the Antichrist.
It's because Oprah speaks truth and like spiritual truth. She knows that that all of that religious nonsense is nonsense.
Yeah. Well, and I said this, and this is kind of a mic drop, kind of like blasphemy thing to hear, but with the whole Antichrist thing, it's just what systems are Antichrist right now, and that might be the Antichrist, and unfortunately, our churches, like capital C, are kind of anti-Christ in a lot of ways. It's Christ is within. Christ is that power of God within you, and they're not telling you that. They are literally being anti-Christ. So it's just this. There's just a lot to think about here. A lot to think about.
Yeah.
Yeah, there sure is. That's for sure. And like you were saying with the church, like the antichrist aspect of that, like when we say that is anything that keeps you separate or tells you that you are separate from God is antichrist, like antichrist, antichristus. It's all. That's what that means. It's not being one with Christ, the Christos, all that stuff. Yeah. And oh my gosh,
Yeah. Well, I mean, God is love, and we're told in Scripture that God is love, but we're also told that perfect love casts out fear.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
Right.
I mean, what does this do? It incites fear. So it cannot be of God. That's the thing. I mean, that's the litmus test, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, just like you were saying with Rome, right, and the emperors, that was at the time of like the dwindling of the Roman Empire. I mean, and all right. So if anybody doesn't know this, the Roman Empire, they didn't die out. They didn't go away. They just transitioned into the Roman Catholic Church. And when they did that, it literally just, it kept everything separate, kept everything middleman, and doctrines were changed. We've already been over all that, but I mean, that's very antichrist. It's very,
It is.
to deceive
Extremely.
people like that, and to
In
just
the name
kind
of Jesus.
yeah, in the name of Jesus, but with like build a mass empire where the kings bow to you and all this other stuff. I mean, that,
And I hope Brandy's going to share. I hope Brandy will share. And Brandy, excuse me if you already are, but I hope you will share just how, like at the end of this whole thing, it is that system that has fed us this lie of what the rapture is. It is that system that has put fear on purpose.
Oh.
Like this is very on purpose. This is a crime against humanity, if you ask me, the way I experience the level of fear I experienced as a child. I mean, think of that on a global scale. This is huge.
Yeah.
Yeah. And before you get into that, Brandy, I just want to say this from my background of the things that I've been into and studied and everything else. The secret societies that look to control humanity do a lot of things through religion, and with that said, the rapture, and like Armageddon especially, you know, they're able to, let's just put it this way, they're able to take two countries and make them fight and then have the whole world joined up on either side to cause some mass hysteria, Armageddon. Now, that is 100% fact that came from Albert Pike, the Grand Master of the Freemasonry. It's in his book, Morals and Dogma. And it's all about how there will be a third world war between the Muslims and the Arabs, and how this war will cause like all these problems. And then, you know, eventually a new world order or a, you know, one world government would arise from that. You know, and what I'm trying to get at with this is that people, church, religion, or anything has been twisted so much that they're able to justify anything like that. I mean, that's just crazy to me. I mean, that's just,
Yeah.
you know,
What I would point out too, though, is that nobody knows that. You know, people like me, people who grow up like this, you don't know that. You know, you don't know any of this. You're told this is the way, this is the.
That's true.
So it's
it does take some digging, I guess, to know that. But when I found that out, I was just shocked. You know, just
that's why I love this podcast. I feel like we're here to set people free from what they don't even know.
Yeah,
they've been imprisoned by.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look it up.
Yeah.
Albert Pike, Morals and Dogma, World War III. It'll come up. And you'll see exactly what's playing out right now, And this is a secret society behind the scenes, pulling the strings. Now, they're not the masters, but they are the puppets, you know, that pull them. They're the puppets that pull another puppet's strings. That's what they are.
Yeah. It's all about power and control, seriously.
Yeah.
And, you know, and a lot of the rapture theology came to be, you know, much later. I think it wasn't until the early 1900s, that it actually got spread throughout mainstream Western theology. So, the early church fathers, that ridiculous thought never would have even entered their minds, a rapture. You know, the word is
Right.
not even in our Bibles. It's just, and it's really hinging on one verse that's been ripped bleeding out of its context. So, but before we kind of move into all of that, I wanted to just say that, you know, the mark of the beast, 666, in the Hebrew alphabet, each letter has a number correlation. And so Caesar Nero, his name equals 666. So that just reiterates, you know, that he was the beast. That's who John was talking about. And it's absolutely ridiculous to think that John would write this letter to those churches in Asia Minor that he listed, but then be speaking to them about something 2,000 years in the future, far removed from their wildest imaginations. That's ridiculous.
Ding, ding, ding. Yeah. There's this
Wow.
there's this really Southern Baptist, I think he's from Texas, but preacher that I used to watch. His name is Ken Raggio. And the reason I used to watch him is because he was an end times preacher.
Yeah.
And he would take he would take the scripture and match it to today's events. And goodness gracious, man, pretty
You can
close if
convince.
somebody can do that, you know, just like with almost everything with
Yeah.
that. They can just take it and just bend it, you know. But to somebody like me who didn't know,
Yeah.
hell, I'm thinking like this is today, you know, like this
Right.
this is crazy. And that also kind of plays into what I was saying about the secret societies. They know what we just said, and so they play off of that, and they keep the fear coming. They keep the people in turmoil and angst, you know, because that's how they get what they want. That's how they manifest it.
Yeah, and it's easy to make those correlations, right? Because we live in a world where there's plenty of war, plenty of, you know, violence and tensions. And so you can easily go, well, the Bible that's what this is.
Yeah.
Because there are cycles, history repeats itself. And so, you could look out into the landscape of what's going on in the world and you know, make the Bible say anything you want it to say.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember growing up, our choir director at church, he turned around to say something sermony into the mic kind of during a transition time. And he said, you know, we've been saying since I was a little boy, I've heard the end times are here. It's time. Get ready. It's time. He's like, well, gosh, that was 70 years ago. You know, he's like, and we're still saying it, but it's coming because, you know, our time isn't like his time. And, you know, one day is like 1,000 and blah, blah, blah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I mean, it just makes so much sense when you find out It already happened. It already happened. And like you said, they would have known that. The people who got the letter wasn't probably for us. And how much time we waste trying to decode that letter into something to apply to us right now. And I'm not saying it can't. You know, you can make scripture apply to so many things. And it does. I think it's multifaceted. I don't think it's just history or just, you know, I think there's a lot of mystical power in it all. But yeah, to try to apply revelation to our day and time is just, it's a waste of time. And we need to be focusing on the here and now, not looking up in the sky for Jesus on a cloud, but looking right here and now for how we can be Jesus here and now, you know, in this ascension time. Because it's not like you're describing, it's not the end times in the way we've been taught. Like there will be an end of a time, but it's not this awful, bloody, ugly rapture where you're fighting with the horses with the blood up to the knees, with your babies on your back, you know, like.
Yeah, for sure. Because, you know, what they do is they take a lot of what Jesus said in Matthew 24, that whole discourse, which was something that I spoke on, you know, over the weekend. And they take Jesus's words and they throw them out there like 2,000-3,000 years. And there's like this future event where, you know, all hell is going to break loose and all of this disaster is going to come to be. And then Jesus will return. That's what they're. So, I mean, it's hard to be the salt and the light. It's hard to kind of resist the evil that we see in the world when you think it's necessary. It's like you look out and you're like, oh, yeah, Jesus is coming back soon because we're at war and the whole world is blowing up. And it gives you spiritual whiplash. It's like, well, are you supposed to step out and be the salt and the light, or are you supposed to coast back and wait to be raptured away so that the Antichrist can take over? It's just, I don't know.
It's like you said this weekend, you said, oh, shoot, Brandy, it happened again. I was just going to say something so great it vanished. Excuse me. Continue.
No, you're fine. Yeah, I don't know. Well, you know, but Jesus, okay, so what I wanted to say about Matthew 24, he issued a harsh rebuke against the religious elite of his day in Matthew 23. It was a scathing rebuke. And then he says, truly I tell you, not one stone here will be left on another. Everyone will be thrown down. And this literally came to pass in 70 AD when Rome destroyed Jerusalem. It was when the temple was being burned to the ground and it was becoming rubble, the soldiers literally went in with tools and they rolled those stones over and over because all of that temple was overlaid in gold. Like if you read back in the Bible, it says that all of those stones were overlaid, the walls overlaid in gold. Well, so when it was burning to the ground, the Roman soldiers saw this gold melting into the rubble and they're like, oh no, we want that gold.
We gotta get it.
So literally no stone was left on another because they went in and they turned them over to get that gold out, just like Jesus said. You know, and he's standing there next to that temple when he said that, and he's saying this temple, not some future rebuilt 2,000 year later temple, but the one he was speaking of was the one he was standing in. Yeah. And also he said this generation will not pass away before these things take place in Matthew 24. And he often referred to his contemporaries throughout the Gospels as this generation. So here he's making that same point. He's saying, all of you standing here, this generation will witness these things. And they did. Within 40 years, which is a biblical generation, all of what he told them did come to pass. Anyway, I go through Matthew 24, that whole discourse in my book, Through the Veil. So anyone wanting to really dig into it can grab a copy, and because we can't get into every verse here. It would take a whole episode of its own. Sure. But everything he said in that discourse has been twisted and distorted to be used as fear-mongering about some coming cataclysmic event, some tribulation of hell on earth with blood moons and skies rolling up like scrolls. You know, just disaster upon disaster, really. But Jesus was speaking to his contemporaries about events relevant to them, not something that would happen thousands of years later. And it's typical that modern Western Christianity would make it about us. Like 2,000 years later in the Western world, the entire faith is solipsistic, very individual focused, and we lose sight of the bigger picture and the very context of Jesus's words, and it's really sad.
You're so right. And I remember what it was I was going to say is that at the workshop you said, you know, we can twist it into it's end times. Anytime there's a bunch of wars and a bunch of natural disasters, which is all the time. I mean, not all the time, but look through history. Like there's spurts of it, so
Yeah.
we could forever and ever say the time is now. Look, it's talking about what they talked about, and but like you said, wouldn't it make more sense that Jesus was talking to the people he was with, and wouldn't it make more sense that John was writing to the people he sent his letter to, and not to
Yeah.
us in 2025? You know,
Yeah.
in our mega churches, pretending like we know what we're talking about when we're like having these revelation Bible studies. It's just, oh, there's just so much. But thank you for sharing that. Thank you.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because Jesus says you will hear of wars and rumors of wars. And so what you're saying, Annelise, everybody looks out and goes, oh, there are wars and rumors of wars because there always have been, right? You can always connect that to any time period. But when Jesus spoke those words, there were not wars and rumors of wars. It was during the Pax Romana, the Roman peace. So it was the time when Rome had literally conquered all of their enemies. So it was it wasn't genuine peace, obviously, but it was a time where there were no wars. And so what Jesus is saying is he's like, when you begin to see wars and rumors of wars, when wars come back online, the time is close. And, that's exactly how it played out. If you say wars and rumors of wars now, it means nothing. There's always
There's
wars
been
and
that.
rumors of
Yeah,
wars.
exactly.
And I really would I want everybody, if you don't already, to get Brandy's book because she details this out so well in there. Even Jesus's words have already come to fruition about, the destruction of Jerusalem in 70 AD. It's just, she puts it out. It's just all in plain sight and can be really freeing, especially if you were programmed as I was. So get the book if you don't have it.
Well, thank
And
you.
like Brandy was saying, it's in her book, but at the same time, I mean, people just do some critical thinking and just think outside the box. Like with the church, when they say don't go read that because you'll invite a demon into you if you read that. Listen, okay, that's when the red flag should go up and say, wait, that's questioning this, and they're telling me not to read this. Like, that doesn't make too much sense. But it's
Yeah, 100%, because that's the thing, when you're being told what you can and can't read, what you should or shouldn't listen to, your agency is taken out of it. And it's like, oh, what we're telling you is true. Well, if it's true, then you won't mind me checking out what other people have to say, right? Because truth will defend
Right.
itself. If you're really speaking the truth, then let people be,
And like
Exactly.
Brandy said, like this whole rapture thing just came around in the 1800s with the John Darby, and this is a new idea. This wasn't what the original Christians believed. This wasn't what
No.
Jesus believed. This wasn't
No.
what the very first churches believed. This is something put into your Bibles. That's not it's not even put into your Bibles. It's just put into your theology, and And are you going to talk about that today, Brandy, about the Scofield Bible and all of that? Because I just found that
I can.
Can you mention that?
Sure. Yeah. Well, okay, so John Darby was friends with the Scofield guy. So when Scofield published his Bible, it got mass distributed. And it went into like all of the seminaries. It just, it just blew up. But because he was friends with Darby, and this guy's the one who invented the rapture theology. He's like the father of dispensationalism, which dispensational theology is rapture theology. And nobody really knows for sure where Darby got the ideas, but there was a young lady around the age of 15 who was on her sickbed, and she was in a religious fervor, and she had these visions of Jesus coming back and secretly taking some people, like believers, away, like raptured away. And then another time when he would come back later for the rest of the church or back with judgment or something like that. So the rapture theology, dispensationalism that Darby issued forth and started preaching was basically right in line with everything this young lady was sharing. And it was swirling in the ether at the time he came out with it. So it seems as though he might have hijacked some of her vision that she had on her sickbed and just kind of began to preach it as his own. But regardless, wherever he came up with it, it's like it came out of the blue because it wasn't anything that any of the church fathers had ever preached or ever even thought. And he was friends with Scofield, that Scofield guy. And so when he created that reference Bible, that's the thing about a reference Bible. It has notes in the margins. It has someone else's theology written into it. You have a certain way of translating or understanding the verses already all in the margins. So Darby's theology was inserted into that Schofield Reference Bible. And then when it got mass distributed to these seminaries and everything, people just ate it up because it's in their Bibles, right? Although it's not, it's just a man-made theology is what it is. And so that's how it kind of, took root and gotten so blown up out of proportion, I think. So that's where it comes from.
Brandy, like you said at your workshop, I think you had it on one of your slides. Like, the problem isn't Christianity. The problem is Christian theology. What they tell you scriptures mean, what they tell you, what they tell you scriptures mean. And that's the problem. The problem's not Jesus Christ, the message, the mysticism behind it all, the power. The problem is what all these people did to that message. So that now when it filters down the pipes of the Roman Catholic Church to us in the evangelical churches, we think, oh, this isn't Catholicism. This is something different. This is our own thing. No, it's not. No, it's a deception, and nobody wants to be in a deception. These are people who want to do what's right, who want to follow Christ, who want to believe the right things.
Yeah.
So it's really good to hear where it all comes from.
Yeah. There's a tremendous amount of brainwashing involved. It's not that most people are malicious. Most people are not. They're deceived also. But there is some malicious intent, I think, at the root of all of it, though. The deception just gets perpetuated. And I think it's important, to know that where things are really headed, because it's not about the rapture, it's about resurrection. If you look back at all of Paul's letters, he's over and over, he's reiterating a resurrection of the dead, that death has been defeated. Christ has risen. We will too. That's the good news, right?
That's the good news. That's the good news. You're right. I think, and that's the thing to focus on. We focus so much in the Christian bubble on the second coming, as in rapture. And it's just this focus on death and doom, and it creates more death and doom in our lives. Like we've talked about, just with laws of the universe, we manifest all of it. And if we could focus on what's coming and where we're going and what the second coming really is, we could get moving,
Yeah. I agree with what you said. I think everything in humanity should be more focused on where we're headed, where we're going, and all the lessons that we've learned through this civilization cycle. I also want to say that this doesn't really have much to do with what we're talking about with the rapture, but it does remind me a lot of the King James Bible. I don't know if I've said this before in a very early podcast, but the King James Bible was written by King James. Yeah. And when that happened, he wrote that, and he had that book tailored to having his subordinates, his peasants or whatever, not rise up against the power that Jesus kind of taught about in the original teachings. But also, come to find out, King James wrote a book called Demonology. Now that is highly interesting to me, how somebody who could write this book, the Bible, that a lot of people base their theology off of, the same author wrote a book about demons. That's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's all about power and control for sure. And I mean, mainstream belief, all of that twisting and all of that deception, just think about it. Mainstream belief is that Jesus will physically return to annihilate his enemies. Like, I've actually heard preachers say Jesus died as a lamb, but he's coming back as a lion. Yeah. They depict Jesus coming back like a prize fighter, like a very violent depiction of Christ, a very un-Christ-like depiction of Christ, I should say. Yeah. And it's really alarming. You have to really twist scripture to get to this place. And in this view, evil is never finally destroyed and justice is never fully realized because evil continues and violence persists. Jesus just unleashes violence. The deviants, go to hell where they remain in torture for all eternity. It's just a very nihilistic view, twisted view of reality. But in John 3:17, it says Jesus didn't come to judge the world, but to save it. And then Jesus says of himself, I judge no one. So it's pretty clear, Jesus is not about, a wrathful judgment upon the earth. The reign of Christ is an unveiling of that kingdom of God that is within us. It's that reconciliation of the world. It's love finally fully realized. The coming apocalypse is not the end of the world. It's the end of illusion. It's the end of the world's way of operating. It's the end of the systems that oppress and divide, the systems that peddle this kind of theology. And it's the end of war and the end of egoic striving. And the only world that ends is the world we have created, the world we, the ego created, which is that false world that it isn't substantial anyway, right? So the essence of who we are and what we're called into, it cannot be diminished. It will shine forth through the demise of all that is false. And when the world ends, it'll be a glorious realization of love as the answer to every question. Swords beaten into plowshares, the lion lying down with the lamb. I mean, that's the world set right and as it should be. And that's what is to come, not some apocalyptic explosion of everything good and true in the world.
Preach
exactly
on,
how,
sister.
I went on a rant. I'm sorry.
Preach on.
No,
Preach
that's
on.
exactly what I think. I mean, when you talk about, or when the end times is preached or whatever, personally, that's what I think. That's what I think. I think it's an end of all the systems, all the stuff I just was telling y'all about the secret society stuff, the darkness, the shadows, all that stuff.
Yeah.
And it's moving into the age that, the light, the age of Aquarius, the golden age,
Yeah.
And I really think that is, I sound like one of these people, but I really think that's here. Like, I really think that's going to be within our lifetime. I really do think that. But that's what I think. It's the end of a lot of systems. It's end of a lot of evilness,
Yeah. Y'all are spot on. I
Yeah.
love it. Yeah. Time is now. I'm Parker like you. I really believe it's now. I think we're going to see churches change. I think we're going to see music change, job, quote, quote, livelihoods change, how
Medical
we do
field.
housing, how we do the medical field, how we do the food industry. Everything is going to be Christ-like. We are the second coming. We are Christ coming back. It's in the flesh. It's in you. The kingdom of heaven is within you. You are the second coming if you so choose to be. And, I choose to be. That's why we're doing this podcast. We choose to be. We don't, like I joke, we don't want to be on this trash planet anymore either. This is the end of an old world. And thank God for it, because I don't think any one of us truly loves this old world the way it is, the way it's run, Even if you don't know, you're caught up in so much delusion and just mind control. Even if you don't know that, I bet you're not real happy in it.
Matrix.
I mean, we can pretend, we can snap the photo for Facebook. Oh my God, so great here. No, it's not. It's not so great here. It's not, but it's going to be. And I believe it's going to be in our lifetime. And I believe this podcast and other projects like it are going to have a big part to play in getting the word out that the time is now, and let's get to it. Let's be a part of it and not fear anything. I mean, there's nothing to fear. There's nothing to fear. And as far as, Jesus coming back, no, I don't think it's on a cloud. I think, like I said, it's in every one of us.
Yeah.
And the music will reflect that. The medical industry, the school systems, the every systems will reflect Christ, and Christ will have returned. And like Parker always brings up, the solar flares, that's happening now. The sun, there's going to be this huge flash of solar flare. The sun will return, the SUN. And it's going to upgrade all of us, like whether you're ready for it or not, I guess. I don't know. Parker can speak into that. But I'm ready.
It's
really, really ready. And I hope all of you listening just buckle up, hop on board with us. And we're here for you and love y'all. And that's why we do this. This is a big deal. This is the biggest deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What Annelise was saying about, I'm sure other people have heard this, but the solar flare thing, listen, the solar flares from just physics and through DNA and through the research of the sun and the rays, they're able to measure these plasma blast offs of the sun that are aimed towards Earth. And when that happens, it hits the Earth and it's making the Earth raise its vibration / consciousness. The Earth is a conscious being. And or conscious entity, or what? Not entity, but conscious.
It's alive.
It's conscious. It's conscious.
She's alive. Yeah.
So with that happening, everything on the earth is having its DNA or consciousness upgraded and lifted up. That's why things are moving so quickly. Things are being discovered so fast nowadays. It's because of that. And it's really hyped up tremendously within the past year. But it's really high right now. And, I'm under the impression that we all have this DNA that is dormant. They call it junk DNA that just doesn't do anything. Yeah, right. They're coming to the conclusions now that these sun rays are changing people's DNA, the ones who are out in it, right now. And we can go down a rabbit hole of sunscreen and chemtrails trying to block out the sun rays and all that stuff. But, it's really just a proven fact, because it's all measured out in science, quantum science. They're able to measure the sun. They're able to see the blast. They're able to people are feeling this stuff. Like, people who are aware of the solar flares, they can feel it when the solar flare is projected to hit Earth. People who feel bogged down, dense, emotional for no reason, or just out of sorts for no reason. It's a lot of the times because of that. So if you feel that way, why don't you find a graph and look at it and see if there's a solar flare that happened? Because I promise you, 9 times out of 8, I'll say 8. I'll be conservative. 8 times out of 10, that is what is happening at that moment, the past year or so.
Yeah.
You should check it out. Seriously, it's very cool.
The Schumann resonance chart. Schumann, right?
Yeah.
Schumann resonance chart. Google that. And that shows you, on the graph, what happened to the sun over the last day or two that makes you feel that way. Because it's all connected. The sun is our source of energy, literally, life, so what the sun's doing, we're doing. And the sun is a coming back. The sun is flashing. And, that Christ spirit in you wants to work here in amazing ways to make this heaven on earth. It can be heaven on earth if you let the Christ within make it heaven on earth, and quit listening to these fear, just theology trash. It's all fear. It's all to distract you. It was created to keep you from even knowing any of what we're talking about and experiencing any freedom at all. Yeah. So just stick with us. We're going to do this together, and we're going to walk everybody through this with us, because don't do this alone. This is big.
Yeah. And I from a lens of my own, with the solar flares and all the stuff that I research, okay? If we were to look at it through this context of God, source, the universe, is sending his son to save humanity. I could just totally, doesn't that kind of picture kind of seem like that? God is sending his son to blast these solar flares. If we want to talk about end time stuff, sending his son to blast these solar flares, these warriors, whatever, to come to Earth, whatever you want to call it, to come to Earth and do what it's doing right now to Earth. I totally believe that. I could totally get on board with that, because that is what's happening. And if that's how it was intended, then I could totally see it that way for sure. Because the sun is trying to save. It's forcing the Earth to upgrade. It's forcing it to upgrade by blasting it with these solar flares of plasma.
So what happens when this big blast comes, whenever it's predicted to come? And that's a Parker question, I guess. But what happens if it upgrades you, but you're not of a Christic spirit? You're not of a high vibe. What are you upgraded to? Is that kind of the whole left behind?
Yeah.
Kind of. What do you think?
So I don't know the answer to that. I'm just gonna put it out there. I don't know the answer to that, but I do know the 2 things that I've heard. And the 2 things that I've heard is, it's called the Great Solar Flash. And what we're getting right now are these little small things that are getting the Earth ready. But this Great Solar Flash is supposed to be this huge sun plasma blast that hits the Earth. And the DNA that I'm talking about being upgraded, or junk DNA, or, your junk DNA being upgraded by this huge, massive blast, is going to bring about full love and light. And it's going to be what Jesus was describing in this is a kingdom of paradise and, stuff like that. Because in that theory, or in that what they're talking about, they're saying it doesn't really matter if you're some super duper scumbag or whatever. When everybody gets hit with this light, it's just a full rush of love. Now, like I said, I don't know this for a fact, but that is what I heard on that part of it. And then on the other part of it it was a little more dim and grim of, you know, this great solar flash transitions us from 3D to 5D. And if you ain't ready, then you ain't coming. And that's not really what I believe. But,
Well, what we have talked about though, like it upgrades some, and then the others that don't want to be a part of it, they don't die. They don't get like literally left behind. They're still
Right.
there, but they're not in your vibration anymore. Like y'all don't
Yeah.
click.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a whole nother episode.
I think the law of one, the raw material, kind of goes into that. And I can't remember exactly precisely, but it's like in order to transition into those higher densities, you can either be a negative polarity or a positive polarity being. And it's much harder to be a negative polarity because you're pushing against, there's a lot of resistance. So it's not like you're going to inadvertently be a negative polarity person. It is a conscious choice because you are really working against the flow of things in order to be negative polarity. And from what I had what I've read in the law of one, it's like up until like the sixth density, you can be negative polarity, and then at that point, entropy. And they kind of, it turns in on them, and then they will turn and go into that positive polarity. So eventually, ultimately, all will be reconciled, but not instantly. It's a very gradual progression. So I feel like we're moving into something of a higher vibration, something more, and eventually we'll come out the other side. And I think it's an all situation. I believe that it's collective.
I think so,
Jesus said
too.
He said, when I am high and lifted up, I will draw all men to myself. And the word there, draw, is drag. We're literally all caught up in what Christ opened up. Christ resurrected, and we will too. But I think it'll be a painful process, so to speak. I don't believe we're just going to, just from here to there overnight. I believe it's an arduous process, and we have to navigate the perils of this world for a time.
Definitely. I definitely think that where we go one, we go all. That's like a. I like that
it's a team effort. It's a team effort. Yeah, like one's not going alone. You know, like we used to be told in church growing up, and it's very, very true. Jesus would have died to save just you. You know, just you. Like we all matter in it, and
Yeah, and in church, it's often about just you. Sadly, it's like, oh, when I die, I'm going to heaven. You know, like me, solipsistic. But in reality, like I said, we all go or we don't go because it is a collective endeavor. And so that should really energize us to be the light, to do our inner work, and from the inside out, bring love into the world, because love is the answer to every question. But when we're closed off, when we're in that saved versus damned, heaven versus hell, in versus out, as long as we are stuck in that type of theology, we're just, we're stopping it's a block. We're stopping ourselves from actually entering into what Christ opened up for us. So it's counterintuitive for sure. And it's really hard when the whole church is working against what Jesus actually said.
I know, and it grinds my gears because I'm a church girl. I love church. I miss church, but you can't stay on board with a whole movement that's going in the wrong direction when you know the words of Christ. They're living and breathing inside of you, and people are waking up to it, like you said, and because it is a collective effort. Sometimes I just get overwhelmed with feeling like I gotta wake them all up because I'm ready. We're all ready, but I know that's not the loving thing to do. You know, people will wake up in their own time, but I'll just sum it up like this. I think we have to do exactly as Christ did: die, resurrect, and then we have this new life where we'll be able to. And Brandy, you can talk more about this, but what will that heaven on earth look like? We'll talk about that. But you got to die to yourself, the whole ego thing we've talked about, that you're not that you are the Spirit of God in this body. That's step one. And that's a painful death sometimes if you were programmed to think God was Zeus in the sky on a cloud and you're separate from this Zeus in the sky. That is a painful death. And I wrestled with that a very long time. And it was a dark time. It wasn't easy. But then that resurrection, that coming back and stepping into this, I've realized who I am. This is amazing. I know who I am now, and now I'm going to live as it. If we will all do that, we'll bring it on. We'll get to ascend together. We'll get off the trash planet. That it was never supposed to be a trash planet. This is a beautiful planet, and we've trashed it. And this new life, this second coming, will restore it. And the time is now. I really do believe, and not because there's wars and rumors of wars, and not because this and that, but because it's happened in me. It's happened in the both of you. It's happening to people all over the world in massive, massive amounts. And the sun's doing it too. So
The signs are in the sky, just like
the signs are in the sky.
Jesus
The
said,
astrological Brandy just did an episode on her other podcast, Spectral Symposium, about the age of Aquarius. So refer to that. We're going into this age of Aquarius. Get ready.
Yeah.
Get ready.
Yeah.
And Jesus is like, if you are like me and you're like, well, where does Jesus fit? It is Jesus, the whole thing. This is all Christ Spirit. It's very exciting. It's very exciting.
Yeah. I think if people would just do the work of truly and openly studying for themselves, listening to people outside of their confined theological boxes, they would see through the distortion too. But you can't see through the distortion when that's all that's shoved down your throat. And
Right.
it doesn't help that the church scares people away from reading or entertaining opposing theologies. Like, be careful or you'll slide right into hell if if you use your God-given discernment. It's like, there again, spiritual whiplash. It's like, oh, don't trust yourself. Don't use your God-given discernment. And so
Trust
it's just
me,
very...
the middleman.
Exactly. Everything except what we are peddling is the devil. That's kind of, how they throw it out there. If you don't accept what we're giving you, then it's a slippery slope and you'll fall down into a hell's gate. It's absurd, but people are caught in the grip of it nonetheless.
Yeah.
Yes, because you don't know better. Because you're sitting on a pew every Sunday, sure
And
that
God
you're
lives
doing,
there.
but you're sure that now you guys can snicker all you want, but when you're growing up, my daddy God did live in that church. Now,
Well, I would say God is there, but He's everywhere.
Absolutely.
And that's,
Oh, yeah.
See, that's the thing.
God is there because the people are there. Because the people
That's
filled
right.
with Christ's Spirit are there. But
That's right.
yeah, but I guess
We were-
as a church girl, I'm giving you listeners the go ahead. Like this is the real deal, and you felt it in your heart, or you wouldn't be listening to this. And it's spreading like wildfire. So listen to that intuition. That is the voice of God. I know you're told don't lean on your understandings. That is taken out of context. That intuition's important.
Yes, absolutely.
End rant.
I would say your intuition
Preach.
is about God
Preach.
being, talking to you through your intuition. I really think that.
Yeah.
And what I was saying about, just so everybody knows, that's an inside joke. Me and Annelise were driving, we were out in the country somewhere in Alabama, and we passed this church, and it said, God lives here. I was just
It
like,
did.
my goodness, I need to go to that church. If God must be in there taking a
Got to
nap.
move
then.
to Alabama in some little rural town.
Exactly. God's taking a nap until Sunday. He's going to show up.
Oh, mercy.
I think
Those
God
church
laughs at
signs.
it. I think God laughs at it all.
I'm
Like
sure,
like
yeah.
source God is just belly laughing at it all.
Yeah. It's laugh or cry. So, I mean, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Oh,
That's
the
right.
absurdity for sure. Well,
What's that sign, Brandy? It's in Alabama. It's between Montgomery and Auburn.
oh my gosh, I know exactly what you mean. It's
with the little
go to
devil on
church.
it.
Got it's an actual billboard, so it's huge, and it's
Yeah.
It's huge.
by a main highway, so everybody going by sees it. But it says, "Go to church, or the devil will get you."
Will
I have a
get you.
picture of that.
Yeah.
I took a really good photo of that sign.
And
not long
doesn't it
ago.
have a devil man like this
It does,
on it?
like a devil
Yeah.
with horns. And
Go to
then, like
church
a
with the devil
storm
will
came
get you.
through, and because it's been there for, I don't know, a lot of years. What, 30, 40? Like a long
Decades, yeah.
time.
Decade. I remember
And,
it myself.
It got blown down, like in a storm. It was knocked over. And somebody, a church, of course, paid money to have this thing fixed and put back in place. So there's like a new and renewed version of that same sign still
Oh,
sitting there to
no.
this day. Yeah.
And this is what your tithes are paying for.
That's what I was about to say.
Oh
Go
my
to church
gosh.
or the devil will get you. I mean,
They put their-
it's just
Oh my gosh.
This is
Tithe
I will
money
say
at
this.
work.
I totally think as this like second coming proceeds, church is I hope church will look a lot different. Church will look like communities of Christ followers who love each other, and there's no dogma to share or disagree on or any of it. It's just just this collective group of loving souls following Jesus's message, following the message of love, whoever you want to, how you want to coin that term. That's what the church is made to be. And that's what I really hope it'll be again. And I know it will be. I know it will be. This is good. But we won't call it church because that word is burned into our minds too much, It's going to be something beautiful, though. And I believe everybody like me who is in like this grieving process of like, oh, I miss church, I miss it, but I can't go somewhere where I know it's not the whole truth. Well, hold on, because I think it's coming. And we really are here at the podcast working on a website and a platform where we can all connect, not as a church, but as just a group of people on this journey every other week or so. So stay tuned for that.
Yeah, we tried a platform for the discourse and stuff, and
Discord,
the Discord, and we just. I don't know if it's going to continue or not. It really didn't hit too well, but we are building a website where everything is going to be on the website. Everything that we've talked about, and it's all going to be in one spot. So
can we have T-shirts?
Yes.
Yeah, we're getting T-shirts.
Where I live,
water bottles.
Oh my gosh, with a cute little rabbit on it.
Yes.
Where we live, we got the best T-shirt maker lady. She'd love to do it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Who wants a rabbit hole T-shirt, y'all? No, I mean, it's just
We'll have contests.
It's so fun.
Yeah, we will.
It's so fun. It's just so fun. And everybody listening, y'all are like family to us now. Thank you for listening and liking our content, sharing our content, and just being a part of the journey. Makes it a lot less lonely.
Yes, like and
Absolutely.
subscribe, please.
Yes.
Especially on
Yeah.
YouTube.
You're making me think of
Oh, sorry. Hold on, real quick, because it just got done. All of our videos, all of our full-length videos are up on YouTube at Transcending the Rabbit Hole. So if anybody wants to watch us, like watch this vodcast,
watch our
vodcast,
gorgeous faces.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're up there if y'all want to go watch them. They're full-length videos, so no more short
That's
clips
wonderful.
if you don't want to. Yeah.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Parker, for doing that.
Oh yeah.
Parker's the man. He does all the social media stuff. He's just really outdoing himself.
Oh,
to
thank
give
you.
all
Thank
the
you.
props. Yeah. Thank you for all that you do. We couldn't do it without you.
Well, hey, we
and
all are doing
Brandy-
something.
Brandy's over here. She is the master editor and just designer and layout lady.
Yeah.
I mean, she's the motor. She's the motor.
Mhm.
How
It's a
I got
collective
here with y'all,
endeavor.
I don't know.
It's a collective endeavor. That's
the thing.
exactly
None of
right.
us could do it alone. None of us could do it
Exactly.
alone. So
We're good
Nobody has the
team.
time.
thanks be to
I mean-
God that we found each other and
Exactly.
yeah, we're doing yeah.
That's right.
Like the
Yeah.
amount of work that I'm not trying to just toot our horn for the listeners, but we put in a lot of time and effort into this, and without it being all three of us, I'm not so sure it would
would
be
happen.
what it is at this point. This is
No.
very early stages, and we're doing really well, I think.
Well, I think it's in the context of community that we grow and that we learn and that
Yeah.
we evolve. And I think that's
Absolutely.
the lesson in it, even for us. None of us are going to go the distance alone
Yeah.
because it is about community. It is about collaboration. And so, yeah, I'm really thankful for the connection that I have with
Us
you
too.
guys.
Me
You
too.
guys are
too.
family to me now. And
You
Yeah.
are too.
Yeah. and all of the other connections that are going to come along, as a result of this. I mean,
That's
who
right.
knows? Who knows what's to come?
That's right. I think there's a lot of cool things ahead. Very cool things. So stick
Yeah.
around.
Yeah, I'm excited. Well, thank you all for transcending this rabbit hole with us. As always, cosmic blessings and peace.
Do you ever grow discouraged by the weight of this world? Does Big Brother get you down with all the lies that he's told? Does the gloom and doom of nightly news haunt your dreams? So you scroll instead of sleep, 'cause distraction is key. But as long as there is still a sun up in the sky, I can choose to live on the sunny side. It's somewhere between burying my head in the sand and falling down the rabbit hole again. I was sleeping just fine peacefully inside my American dream, awoken when those puppet strings were cut right off. The evidence you can't ignore, sheriff call you misinformed. I know the truth, but trying not It takes a worried man to sing a worried song, and the state of humankind had me humming alone. Hello, common sense, I'm convinced we've lost our way, sold our attention to the system. Now there's power to reclaim, but as long as there's a heart beating in my chest, I will cling to hope that's true. I will